Welcome to Travel Buddy, presented by Switchfly. In this podcast, we talk about all things travel, rewards, and loyalty. Let's get to it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Travel Buddy podcast. Today is a special day because alongside our longtime guest, Nowell Outlaw, who's the CEO of Switchfly, we also have Jamie Perry. Jamie Perry is the president of JetBlue's Travel Products subsidiary. And so Perry will be leading the growth of the JetBlue Vacations brand and other non-air travel products, including Paisly, which is JetBlue's homegrown travel website that gives travelers access to exclusive savings and points on cars, stays, activities, and travel bags. Jamie, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you, and I can't wait to figure out what is going on in the package travel industry. So thank you for your insights. Thank you for your time, and I'm excited to get started.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Jamie, so I guess one of the things that we were talking about before we started recording was, the history of JetBlue, right? And most people, I think about JetBlue as just the airline, right? But there's been this successful development of JetBlue Travel Products. And maybe if you took a minute just to explain what JetBlue Travel Products really is to people, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. So JetBlue Travel Products as a separate entity has been around since for about 6 years now, but that wasn't the beginning of our exploration of non-air sales and offerings at JetBlue. We've been selling our vacations product, formerly known as JetBlue Getaways, for a while. And by getaways or vacations, what we mean is packaged offerings, right? Flights, hotels, potentially cars, activities, other things that could be bundled together for a single price. And we were selling vacation packages for many years, but about 10 years ago now, we started to think about maybe we can do more here. Maybe we are leaving opportunity on the table for ourselves and for our customers, and there's an opportunity to get more deliberate and concise about how we do it. So we started to think about what would that mean, and what would that look like if we were to go down the path of really sort of leaning into this part of our business. And we concluded that it would actually make sense for us to set up a separate corporate entity, JetBlue Travel Products, and move that out of airline headquarters in Long Island City in New York, and set it up somewhere else with a very different culture and a very different sort of strategy and set of priorities. And the goal was to almost create a sort of startup-like mentality and attitude to things, where we had an opportunity to experiment with different types of products, different types of offerings, different types of platforms, and see what really worked with customers, right? And see what really resonated with them. So the team was set up down here in Fort Lauderdale in Florida, and staffed from scratch with people who there was a small number of people who started the business that came from JetBlue Airways, but most of the people were new hires and were hired down here. And have never worked for JetBlue Airways itself. And we've created a very different sort of culture, a very different approach to doing things, and a very different approach to technology that we think is quite exciting, and that early results suggest could be something that will lead to significant growth over the next few years. So we're very excited now to be leading the charge into how we think about and how we sell non-air travel offerings.
That's great. Okay. Well, so Jamie, I'm super curious. How do you see the travel industry, especially in the package travel side, developing over the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months or so? As you're leading into 2025, what are some trends that you're noticing? What are things that people should be paying attention to, and especially given our listeners and the travel industry at large?
I think that travel packages, vacation packages, have a bit of a bad. And there are certain audiences who very much associate themselves as people who are looking for a vacation package. And having worked in the US, in Australia, and in Europe, I mean, there are very clear sort of destinations that are identified by customers at large as package destinations. But what's happening is you sort of got this sort of subset of people and subset of destinations that are packaging people or packaging destinations. And that artificially, in my view, limits the market for packages. And I think we need to rethink how we sell those, right? Rather than saying to someone, hey, Noel, do you want to go on a vacation package? Which leads you to think either I'm not a vacation package person, or I don't want to go to a vacation package place.
Hmm.
Whereas what we should really be thinking about is a vacation package is a way of actually bundling products together and saving, right?
Yeah,
Now,
for
if you
sure.
think across multiple different categories and industries, there are a lot. I mean, insurance companies have been doing this for years, right? Buy your
Hmm.
auto and your home insurance together and save, right?
Hmm.
And that's not thought of as a unique product that only applies to sort of 5% of the industry. An offer that applies to everybody.
For sure.
So the way that I think we're going to see packaging evolving is a move away from this sort of um, categorization or naming of things and places as package vacations,
Yep.
and more into a concept of encouraging people to buy multiple products from the same place and unlock savings as a result.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of consumers don't even know about packaging, right? Or they
Right.
don't know about like JetBlue vacations. And then you get these, I think the all-inclusive image, right? And you're locked into these things, these programs. And that's really not the case, right? I mean, it's really, you can build your own journey, right? Which I think is
Yeah.
super important. And people don't necessarily know that these programs exist. Like that's what I found is that people think of JetBlue, the airline. They don't actually think of JetBlue as the vacation solution as well.
Right. And I think
Yep.
that comes because we as an industry have historically tried to push people down particular paths to purchase, right?
Yep.
So in this case, we say to them, do you want to book a vacations package? And most people no, they don't. They want to
Mhm.
book a flight. But some people do, and they opt to go down the vacation packages path, and we sell them a vacation package.
Mhm.
But we're really putting the onus on the customer to identify themselves as a potential customer of a vacation package and send them down a path that they clearly understand or think they understand. Whereas what we really should be doing is trying to understand what they need.
Mhm.
And then in the right circumstances go, hey, you know what, Noel? You've bought this hotel and you're now looking to buy these flights. Did you know that if you bundled them together as a package, you could save
Yep.
X% off the total purchase price? That's a much more compelling value proposition for consumers, I think,
Mhm.
that it is trying to get them to self-identify into something they may not understand.
Yeah, that's
I'll
great. That's great.
yeah, I'll say for me, it's when I'm booking travel, I'll book a flight because I know I need to go somewhere, and it's the secondary calls to actions that come up going through the booking process. It's like, oh, have you thought about this, adding this to your stay or adding that? And that's actually really helped me a lot because I didn't know anything about package travel before I started talking to Noel on this podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is
Huh.
people think about and research and book travel in different ways.
Mhm.
And it's not as simple as to say, Brandon always books the flight first, then the hotel. Noel always books the hotel first, then the flight. We do things different ways depending on why we're traveling, right? Let's say Noel's going on a work trip. He's coming to visit a great client in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He probably books his flight first because he knows where he's going, and then thinks, well, where is the hotel that's near where I've got to go and see these guys? And that's good
Mhm.
enough. It's the price is fine. It's clean. It's reputable. That'll do, right? The hotel is not the focus of the trip.
Mm.
Brandon is going on a multi-generational trip with his partner and some kids and parents, and they're all going for some big celebration, 60th birthday, whatever it might be. The destination is a much bigger part of that thought process than the travel to get there. So you would start with thinking about and researching what's the location. And part of the research into the destination is what sort of hotels there or do they
Mhm.
have, or what sort of short-term rental accommodation do they have? And that forms part of your view on where you want to go, right?
Mhm.
So you may not necessarily book the accommodation first, but you know pretty much where you're going to book, right?
Mm.
Then you go and book your flight. We're not going to be able to sell you a hotel after that because you kind of already know where you're going. You know, you're taking a kid on a travel soccer weekend, right? Again, what's the destination I've got to get to? I just need somewhere nearby. I need a rental car to get around.
Mhm.
Depending on the occasion, the sequence in which you book is different, which is why trying to push someone down a particular purchase path doesn't really fit for that many people because they're thinking about this sequence of things in a different way, right? So you
smart.
need to be, I think we need to be ready to meet customers where they are, right? Noel wants to book his flight first. Brandon wants to book his accommodation first. That's fine. We'll sell you that one
Sure.
piece, but then we'll turn it into a package if it looks like there's an opportunity for you to get a better deal by doing so, right? Hell, we'll even sell you the travel insurance first if that's what you want to do. I mean, you'd be pretty weird, but theoretically, we could start there and then start to build the rest of the itinerary around that.
Got it. Nice. The interesting thing is like, and I actually love the bundle and save thing. It just really resonated with me personally because, you hear about packages. People talk about this as packages, packages, packages. But the truth is, it is really taking a component, an air, a hotel, a car rental, and stacking it all together for a consumer, right? And really driving ultimate value. So for me, I'm like, yeah, that actually resonates really well. When you think about packaging in general, right? And not even vacations, but are there other inventory things? Where do you see it going, right? Because I have a lot of people and their first thing is like, well, we need air and hotel and car, right? And then now activities has been a big one, right? And insurance has been added to the mix. Are there other things and trends that you're seeing that need products that need to be added to the mix to get this done right?
Yeah, I think I'm a father of a 9-year-old daughter. So two things that have been high on my list of things we need to do over the last few years are Taylor Swift Eras Tour and Disney.
Yep.
And my experience trying to book those two experiences has been awful. Trying to book tickets for the Taylor Swift concerts at any meaningfully large urban area has been extremely difficult. And if anybody's tried to book Disney tickets recently, you need some kind of like advanced degree to figure out all the various steps you need to go through and in what sequence in order to eat. You need to what day are you going to go and what parks do you want to go to and how many days do you want the ticket for? And what about food? And what about express lines, whatever they're called nowadays, right? It's so freaking complicated that I think being able to incorporate that kind of event ticketing into bundles, not necessarily to save money, but to just take the burden off the consumer could be an enormous benefit. We're actually seeing here at JetBlue Travel Products, we're seeing people booking away from Disney, not because they don't want to go to Disney, but because it's too flipping hard, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Too complicated. So how do we make that easier? How do we make it more seamless for customers? How do we incorporate that sort of thing into the process of buying the broader travel around?
If I'm understanding you right, does that mean like you go to the website and you're looking for travel and you see, Taylor Swift Eras Tour is coming up this summer. When do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And it putting all those packages together.
I think it's not so much telling people Taylor Swift is coming. I think the world pretty much knows.
No, of course,
for sure.
Of course.
So you've got people that want to go, right? Maybe, and certainly my experience living in New York was it was so difficult to get tickets in New York. A lot of people we knew were like, let's go to Miami, let's go to Barcelona, let's go to Amsterdam. Yeah, there, right? Because it was actually easier to get tickets in those locations. But I think if someone were to start looking for sort of hotels around that sort of time, you could say, hey, would you be interested in this experience as well? You're going to be there at the same time. Or maybe you're right. Maybe you start with, we can help you here, and then we can put pieces around it once you have your ticketing in place. So it's going back to where people start. I would guess with something like a Taylor Swift concert, you'd start with the tickets because until you know where and when you're going, you're not going to want to be buying the other pieces.
I love that.
I think we should just build Taylor Swift travel. I mean, just forget about it. And all you do is cater. I mean, she could fill all of JetBlue's airplanes probably if it's absolutely crazy.
I know someone in New York who their child was conceived when the Taylor Swift Eras Tour began, right? It's now on its final leg, and that child is over a year old and walking, right? Wow. This is a monumental event that we may not see the likes of again. But I hear you. I think we could certainly sell out flying people around to Taylor Swift concerts.
Yeah, it's crazy, and the hotels, and the all the other stuff that goes on with it.
Right.
And then I think the interesting thing is that I'm not sure consumers, and Brandon and I have talked about this. I'm not sure they understand the savings, right? And probably I think it would be interesting just to talk really quick about, if I'm a consumer or brand, like we go and we do this, bundling, right? We're not
Mhm.
buying a package anymore, a vacation package. We're bundling together my flight and my car and my hotel. What am I saving? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's I think it helps convey the sense of value to the consumer.
Yeah.
What kind of
It's a great question. I mean, obviously, it's difficult to get into specifics because it
sure.
varies so much by location
Yeah.
and by time and everything else. But by putting a hotel and a flight together, you could be saving a decent amount.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with loyalty points on top of
Hmm.
uh, the everything else that you're getting and that you're saving, you're really talking about a compelling value proposition, right?
Hmm.
So you're getting discounted flights. Typically, you're getting discounted hotels.
Hmm.
You're probably getting, if you want a rental car, depends where you're going, but if you want a rental
Hmm.
car, you're getting a discount on that as well.
Yeah.
Even with all those discounts, it's still a meaningfully large number. And then when you
Mhm.
layer the loyalty points and the accelerators on top of that, right,
Yeah.
it can be a very, very compelling value proposition indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's, I think that is the driver. I just got an email over the weekend from JetBlue that was, I think it was up to $600 off,
Yeah.
and I only had to make $100 deposit to
Yeah.
book my vacation. And you start thinking about, well, if I want to go, to the Dominican Republic, right, or go to Aruba or go to those places in January or February, getting that discount plus being able to hold it,
Yeah.
right? And on top of that, like I'm bundling and saving. That's a pretty compelling
Yeah,
story,
there's a
right?
lot of levers that you can pull to make this a really compelling value proposition. You spoke about putting down deposits, so you pay the rest later. That's another
Yeah.
one. What I would say is when I started here, I've only been here like almost 3 months, so I'm still pretty
Hmm.
new in the role. I wanted to understand sort of who our customers were and sort of how much they were spending and how much they were
Hmm.
saving. So I did some basic sort of research on our data, and I found that there were interestingly like three core groups of customers. First of all, my assumption was that most of the people who buy from us are people who are somehow they have some kind of affinity to JetBlue or they're invested in the Blue program. And that is true. Most of the people who book with us are True Blue members and therefore have there's some sort of loyalty program benefit to booking through us. But what's interesting is two other things I found. One is there is a meaningful subset of people who book with us who are our Mosaic customers, so our top tier status.
Okay.
Um, they spend significantly more on the flight and on the accommodation than regular True Blue members do. So we have almost
Got
like
it.
a sort of luxury or a high end segment
Hmm.
to our audience who are disproportionately benefiting from the loyalty overlay and from the discounts because they're looking to spend more. Nicer properties, sort of more
Hmm.
expensive room, more peak season, what have you. But then there's also another segment who are not actually in the True Blue program at all, right?
Hmm.
So if I think about that, I think, why would someone come and book with us if they're not a True Blue member? And the answer
Hmm.
is they're getting such a great deal on the bundle
Correct. Yeah.
that even though they're not really taking advantage of any loyalty perks that they may get, it's still the logical place for them to book, right? So it just goes to show that even within this sort of demographic of people who book packages, there are subsets of people with different needs who are each finding those needs are met by what we offer.
Jamie, I was going to ask you, I mean, for a consumer, right? I don't think people actually understand how those things are stacked, right? And
Right.
so yes, there's a discount just from coming to the site and buying the things. But like when you're given the opportunity to sign up for the loyalty program, right? You should do it, right? Because all of a sudden you're offered things at even, a more of a discount or different categories of things and you're starting to build those points, right?
Right.
To really start driving the thing forward. Right.
Yeah. All you're doing by not being a member of True Blue is you're leaving
Mhm.
value on the table.
Yeah.
You're not going to have to pay any more for that really good deal over here.
Hmm.
You're just not taking advantage of the points that you're getting on top.
Yeah.
And depending on the status that you have and whether you have one of our co-brand credit cards, there are even more value
Oh,
drop
sure.
benefits. You can get points accelerators, you can credits, statement credits,
Hmm.
etc., that drive incremental value. So
Yeah.
there are a bunch of people out there, smart people, who really understand how all these things fit together and are
Hmm.
using them in a combination that drives the most value for them. But there's a lot of people we still need to educate on how all this stuff works and how they can get the maximum value out of the whole opportunity.
For sure. Yeah. And I think it's great. And, just watching, JetBlue and what it's done, right? I mean, over the last, couple of years, JetBlue's, doubled and doubled and doubled. Like the performance has been unbelievable, which is great because I think people are starting to really understand, these stacks and how I earn value. And I think the offers and promotions are phenomenal, right, for a consumer. So I think it's really good.
They are. And as I say, we have a meaningful volume of people who come to us just because they find a good deal. What's interesting is we've done some research and we find that, going back to what I was saying about how people book, there are three distinct mindsets that people have when they're booking. I won't say behaviors because Brandon might exhibit all three of these different mindsets depending on why he's traveling, right?
Sure.
There are some people who just need something quick and easy, right? The work traveler, the person going on the kids' travel soccer game, whatever it might be. They know where they've got to be. They just need someone that's clean and decent reputation and a good price. Don't care. Put a good price, good property in front of me. That's fine. Then you have a second group of people who are extremely value conscious. They will do their research and go to many, many sites and resources and investigate every possible combination of flight plus room plus car plus whatever to make sure they're getting what is the right deal for them. Not necessarily the cheapest. You can have people who spend a lot of money but are very value conscious. They're looking to make sure they get the best overall deal for what they're willing to spend. They have like a mental amount that they're willing to pay and they want to get the most for it. Then you have other people who just love the act of research, right? They come home from work, they're looking forward to going on their vacation. They sit down with their partner, maybe over a glass of wine or a cocktail, and they talk about it. What about this place? What about that place? And the act of research is actually part of the vacation experience itself, right? The preparation. And then they're the kind of people who come back afterwards and they're writing reviews and posting photos on Instagram or whatever. And that's sort of the post-travel experience, but it's all part of that experience. And we have to be able to communicate to each of those different mindsets with different language and different copy and different merchandising, speaks to the specific needs that they have at that point in time.
Yeah, for sure. Nice.
Fascinating. I do exhibit all this.
You do.
But definitely in the second category is me for sure.
Yeah. And and the interesting thing is, going back to Taylor Swift, is all you have to do is put Taylor Swift out there and it doesn't matter. You're looking for something that's clean. You got to buy it right now and you're going to spend a lot of money for it. Right.
Right.
So
it's one of my greatest regrets in life that I didn't go to that show. So I'm with you.
We didn't make it. We didn't make it. The floor figures for the third tier at MetLife Stadium was not compelling.
Yes. Same.
It's crazy.
Same.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Jamie, I appreciate your time so much on this podcast. Your insights are wonderful. And I have to say, I've never actually flown JetBlue. And I feel like as a proud Texan, I need to jump on board. And I don't see any flights on this. Yeah, man. All right.
You'll love it first flight, Brandon, I promise you.
Yeah,
that's right. Great. Okay. Well, when I pour my old fashioned and start doing research with my wife, I'll encounter JetBlue products and see what I can find. Nice. Thank you so much, Jamie. Nowell, always great to have you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.
Great.
Lovely.
All right, guys. Thanks.